Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you, coming at you with a combo guide for Vanquish Soul K9. Now, at the time that I'm recording this, the pack hasn't been officially announced, but I really wanted to make sure that I got a lot of practice in with this deck, because Vanquish Soul K9 is not only very complex, it is definitely one of the better decks that we're going to see in the upcoming meta. So, this combo guide is going to be a little bit different. Before I explain how, I first want to explain that if you are interested in getting content like this early, you can join as a YouTube member below. YouTube members get to see all content as it's uploaded rather than when it goes live. And I tend to upload videos in batches, a few days or even sometimes a week before it's set to go live. So if you want to see that content early, if you want to get some exclusive members only content, and if you want your name at the end of every single video, head down to the join button next to the subscribe button below and join as a member today. But as I was about to say, the thing to note about Vanquish Soul K9 combo lines, right, is that these are all going to be like 2-card combos, mostly just due to the nature of how Vanquish Soul cards work. You have to reveal monsters with attributes in your hand, multiple of them. So, like I said, these are all going to be 2-card lines. Don't think, though, that because of that, this deck is any weaker than decks that use 1-card combo lines, and there's a lot more than just the lines I'm going to show you. But if you watch all of these combo lines in the sample hands I'm going to put at the end, you should be familiar enough with this deck that you feel more comfortable, comboing off with any old hand. But now that I've gotten all that explanation out of the way, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right on into this combo guide. Okay, so the first 2-card combo that I want to show you is with Dr. Madlove, and it could be either Vanquish Soul Hollie, the new Earth level 5, or Jiaolong, the already existing level 5 Fire Vanquish Soul monster. But regardless, here's how you can play out a hand with these 2 cards in it. Alright, we're going to start by normal summoning the Madlove and using her effect to add the new Vanquish Soul start. We can activate targeting the Madlove in order to add the Jiaolong to our hand. This is why it doesn't matter which of these you open alongside the Madlove, by the way. If you open Jiaolong, you would simply use your field spell to search the Hollie here instead. Now we can link into Rock of the Vanquisher, using the effect to add back Madlove. Hollie can special summon herself and then reveal the Jiaolong and the Madlove to summon another Jiaolong from deck before overlaying into the rank 5 K917 Ripper. Also very important to note, if you've been counting summons up to this point, Ripper is going to be our 5th summon and has an effect to negate monster effects activated in the hand. So if your opponent has a Nibiru, they cannot use it effectively. This line is Nibiru proof. We're going to use Ripper's effect, detaching to add Jokul. Now we can activate Jokul, special summoning it, and Jiaolong. Jokul effect will add Lantern. Then we're going to overlay for our Nosh Knight, detaching 2 in order to attach the 104 Masquerade, not C104. You need to attach the rank 4 regular 104 to Nosh Knight as a material. Now we're not going to go into our CXC's Nosh Knight yet. Very important that before we do that, we first summon Lantern, activate to revive the Jokul, and then use Lantern to add a case for K9. Now we can activate a case for K9 and then add Izuna, and then overlay into Valen the Super Sky Blaster, or any other rank 5 that's generic. But the important thing here is that we got a case of K9 on the field before we overlaid into the CXC's Nosh Knight. Because once we activate CXC's Nosh Knight, we can then go into the number C104 Umbral Horror Masquerade. Umbral Horror Masquerade on summon has the ability to destroy any spell or trap card in the field. That's why we wanted to activate a case for K9 before we summon this, because we actually want to destroy a case for K9. That way we can use its effect and then set forced release from our deck face down. So this is what our end board is going to look like here. I didn't mention it during the line, but we also got an incidental search for K917 Izuna off the case for K9, which can be utilized as a hand trap during our opponent's turn. On top of that, we have Rock of the Vanquisher, which can either special summon Dr. Madlove to bounce, or we could even add back the Hollie and potentially summon or take control of something during the opponent's turn. We've got Valen to turn a monster face down, or any other rank 5 that you want that's generic. The Umbral Horror is actually insane. It can not only negate a monster effect that activates on the field, but then it discards a random card from the opponent's hand. Then your opponent loses half their life points. Remember that Ripper has the ability to negate a card effect activated in the hand or graveyard, and then once you've done that, you can go Force Release, destroy a card, and then go into the Werewolf, which will then get to hand rip your opponent yet again. So you're starting to probably be able to see just why this deck is definitely as strong, if not stronger, than other tier 1 decks. This turn 1 end board is a force to reckon with, but there are even stronger boards we can potentially put up. Alright, here's another 2-card hand with Dr. Madlove and Stake Your Soul. The end board and sequencing is mostly going to be the same, but it's going to be different sequencing towards the start here. And it's not the most intuitive, so I definitely wanted to show this line off. But we're going to start by normal summoning the Madlove, adding the field spell, and then activating. We're going to use the field spell targeting Madlove, and we actually want to add our Vanquish Soul Jiaolong. This looks like a really weird card to search, but again, if you have Stake Your Soul in your hand, this is actually the best target, because now we can activate Stake Your Soul, summon Razen, activate Razen, adding the Hollie Sue. Now we can link the Madlove into Rock, activate Rock, add back the Madlove. Now we can special Hollie Sue, and now we have a Dark and a Fire in our hand to reveal for the Hollie Sue. Not only that, but it's important that you have Jiaolong in hand so that it's a level 5 for Jokul. Again, it looks really weird that we did it in that order, adding Jiaolong first, but now you can see why we did that. So we're going to special summon the other Jiaolong from deck before going into Ripper, and then it's pretty much going to be the same order as last time. Ripper for Jokul, Jokul summon Jiaolong and itself, Jokul effect add Lantern, overlay into the Nosh Knight, detach to attach 104, and we'll suck up Razen as well, because why not? We can summon Lantern, revive Jokul, Lantern add Case for Canine, Case for Canine add Izuna, then overlay into our Sky Blaster before going into CXC's Nosh Knight. Umbral Horror is going to pop the Case for Canine. We can set Force Release, bada bing bada boom. There is our end board, just like last time. So yeah, as you can see, Madlove plus Stake Your Soul results in the exact same end board. Again, the least intuitive part of that line is that you have to use the field spell to add Jiaolong. Again, might not make a lot of sense right up front, but as you can see, it still spits out the exact same end board. Alright, so for this hand, we have K966A Jokul in our opening hand. This is a really strong starter card to have in your hand, and if you open it alongside Razen or Stake Your Soul, you can actually put out that stronger end board that I was talking about in one of the earlier combo lines. Let me show you an example of that. We're going to start with normal summon Razen. Razen's going to add the Hollie Sue, then we can link into Rock. Rock's going to add the Razen back to our hand. Now, you might be thinking, oh yeah, and then we can Hollie Sue, reveal Razen, special summon herself, and then reveal a Fire and a Dark to summon from deck. No, that's actually not how we're going to do it. We're going to actually activate the Jokul effect and use that to summon the Hollie Sue as well as herself. Now we can use Jokul to add Lantern, and now we have a Fire and a Dark in our hand once again, so now we can use Hollie Sue in order to summon the Dr. Madlove. Dr. Madlove is going to add the Vanquish Soul Start field spell here, which we are then going to activate in order to target Hollie Sue and then add the Heavy Borger from our deck to our hand. Now we can use Borger, bounce Hollie Sue to summon. Borger F can reveal the Lantern in order to draw a card. Here we just had a Dr. Madlove on the top of our deck, but you can ignore this Dr. Madlove for the rest of the combo line and pretend like it's not there. We're not going to reveal it for anything. Alright, now that we've drawn off the Heavy Borger, we can activate Hollie Sue to reveal and summon herself off her own effect. Now we can go into the Ripper, and then Ripper effect gets to activate here, adding an Izuna. We can go Lantern, revive the Jokul. Lantern effect is going to activate in order to add a Case for Canine. Case for Canine is going to add another follow-up Jokul. We don't need it for this combo line, but we can use it for follow-up plays on the next turn. At that point, we're going to overlay into Nosh Knight. Nosh Knight's going to attach 104, go into the CXCs. Because we already have the Case for Canine on the field, we can activate the Umbral Horror Masquerade in order to pop it, setting the Forced Release. Alright. Now, as we go into our end phase, we get to use the effect of Vanquish Soul Start, and now we can set the Snow Devil. Not only that, we can also activate Dr. Madlove to bounce the monster with the lowest defense on the field, which is actually our Heavy Borger, and we actually kind of want to bounce this. That way, we can summon it during our opponent's turn to potentially dodge effects that might target or negate Dr. Madlove, or if we summon something off Rock of the Vanquisher like Razen, we could potentially dodge any targeting effects with the Borger there. But yeah, that's going to be what the end board looks like for this particular setup. So, as you can see, by opening Jokul, It sounds weird, right? Like, you would think opening multiple Vanquish Soul cards is how you end on more Vanquish Soul cards on your end board. But actually, by opening Jokul, we're able to keep enough Vanquish Soul bodies around in order to be able to set up the Snow Devil. This is fully set up, by the way. We searched out the Izuna, which is Earth, the Heavy Borger, which is Dark, and then also the Jokul, which is Dark, and then we opened the Razen, which ended up back in our hand. So our Snow Devil is live for all of its effects right now. That's, of course, on top of the Forced Release and all the other stuff that's a part of our end board here. So yeah, as you can see, the K9 cards definitely help the Vanquish Soul cards greatly. As mentioned before, it's not just Razen plus Jokul, but Stake Your Soul plus Jokul can end on that same end board from the previous combo line, and here's how. We're going to start by activating Stake to summon Mad Love, revealing Jokul. Mad Love adds the Field Spell activates, targets Mad Love, in order to add Razen. Remember, we haven't normal summoned yet, so we can normal summon Razen, add Hollie, link into Rock, Rock F to add back the Razen. Now we can activate Jokul, summoning herself and Hollie. Jokul adds Lantern, Hollie reveals Lantern and Razen in order to summon out Borger in this case. We're going to use Borger to reveal and then draw before overlaying into the Ripper and then adding the Izuna. Now we can go Lantern, revive Jokul, and activate Lantern to go for Case for K9. Case for K9's effect is going to activate here. We can add another Jokul, overlay into Nosh Knight, go into the CXC's Nosh Knight, then go into the Umbral Horror. Umbral Horror pops Case for K9, sets the Forced Release. Now end phase, we can go Start, set Snow Devil, and then Mad Love in order to bounce back the Borger. Now the Mad Love herself will also get bounced back, because remember, she was summoned off of Stake Your Soul. And if you wanted to, you could actually absorb her as a material under the Nosh Knight if you'd rather have an extra material for that. But either way, we've got our full setup from last time here. Even if the Mad Love's no longer on board, we still have the Snow Devil face down with all of our attributes that we need in hand. We have the Izuna, we have our negates. Like I said, Stake plus Jokul is the exact same setup as Razen plus Jokul. Alright, so two things that you might be wondering. One, what happens if you only open K9 cards? Can you go from K9 into Vanquish Soul? And two, what in the world is Saryuja Skulldread of all Link monsters doing in our extra deck? Well, we can actually answer both those questions in one combo line. We can use Skulldread to dig for Vanquish Soul cards, and we can do that by using a bunch of K9 monsters. Jokul plus Izuna is kind of the perfect two-card combo to demonstrate this. We can activate Jokul, summoning herself and Izuna. Izuna's activating because she got special summon, dumping the Lupus. Now we can go Jokul to add Lantern, Lantern to summon back the Lupus, and then Lantern can add a Case for K9 here. And as you can see, if you open Jokul plus Izuna, it is very, very easy to just spit out 4 monsters onto your end board. Now, if you wanted to, you could overlay into Ripper and then go into the Nosh Knight and set all of that up. And that's actually really solid. But if you really want to dig for Vanquish Soul cards, then you can do the following. We're going to activate Case for K9, add a Jokul, do a little bit of deck thinning first, then link into Skulldread. Now, for this sample here, these are the 4 cards that I have our deck drawing, right? We have to put 3 of them back, but Razen is really what you want to find off Skulldread. Like, you can do some things off Mad Love, but Razen or Rhoda to search it are super, super good to find off the Skulldread here. So, we're going to put those 3 Spell and Trap cards back, normal summon Razen. Razen's going to add Hollie, then link into Rock. We can give it a buff, and then Rock can activate, add back Razen. Special Hollie. Hollie can reveal Jokul plus Razen to summon Jiaolong. Now we can still make Ripper, and then activate Ripper in order to add the Force Release and then set that. So you don't get the full end board here if you do it this way, but you do still get the Ripper into the Force Release. You have the Rock in order to add back the Hollie or summon the Razen. Either way, of course, you need a Fire and a Dark to destroy a card in its column, but the point still stands, right? So that is a way, again, of going from your K9 stuff into your Vanquish Soul plays with the Saryuja Skulldread. Again, you could have just used those K9 monsters to set up Ripper plus Umbral Horror. I'll let you decide whichever is better. It's going to be very hand-dependent a lot of the time, but I know a lot of you were probably confused seeing this in the extra deck, so I wanted to demonstrate just how it gets used. Alright, now there are going to be some hands where you might open Hollie or Jiaolong plus Jokul, but let's say the other 3 cards in our hand are all spell and trap cards, so we have no other attributes at all. In that scenario, we can't really make use of the Hollie effect, but we can of course still use her as a body in order to be able to set up a board. So this is kind of the no Vanquish Soul K9 only board, using one of the level 5 Vanquish Soul monsters. We're going to go Jokul effect, summon Self and the Hollie. Jokul is going to add Lantern, then we're going to overlay for Ripper. Ripper is going to add the Izuna here. We can then normal summon the Izuna, because remember, our opponent's going to have their opening hand, so they'll have 2 or more cards in hand. So Izuna can normal summon without tributing if they have 2 or more cards in hand. We're going to use Izuna in order to dump the Lupus. Then we can go Lantern, summon Lupus, Lantern effect, add Case for K9, activate Case for K9, add another Izuna, go for Nosh Knight. Now here we're going to activate Nosh Knight, and not only are we going to attach 104, but we also want to definitely attach the Lupus as a material as well, because Lupus says that any Xyz monster that has it as a material cannot be targeted by card effects, so it's a nice little buff there. Now here's CXC's Nosh Knight. Going into Umbral Horror pops the Case for K9. Case for K9 sets Force Release, and there we go. So, like I touched on in the last combo line, if you only open K9 stuff, you can still end on both Ripper and Umbral Horror Masquerade, which might not look like a ton, but remember, this is a monster effect negate, plus a random card rip from hand, plus having your opponent's life points. Also, because it has the Lupus as a material still, it can't be targeted. Ripper can negate a monster effect, and then Force Release can destroy a card before turning the Ripper into Werewolf, which will get another hand rip. On top of Izuna, which can activate with the Lupus if you detach that, to potentially be able to go into another rank 5 on the opponent's turn. So even though you don't have any Vanquish Soul cards here, this end board is still a force to be reckoned with. Alright, so Izuna is actually a really important card for the deck, but I haven't really shown it off in any of the combos up to this point. That's because Izuna is really useful not only as a hand trap, but also against your opponent's hand traps. So for this hand, I wanted to show an example of that. You can ignore the Ash Blossom in my hand. It's only the Ash Blossom in the opponent's hand that's going to matter here. Let's say that you go normal summon Dr. Madlove, activate, and then they use Ash Blossom to negate it, right? Now you can't search your field spell, and you're no longer able to set up your Vanquish Soul plays. However, if you have Izuna in hand, you can still set up pretty much your full combo. Because our opponent activated a card effect in hand, we're first going to link Mad Soul into Rock and then add back, but because they activated a card effect from hand, we can now special summon Izuna with her effect. Special summon, activate, send the Lupus. Lupus effect, again, because we activated, or because our opponent rather activated a monster effect in hand, Lupus can also summon himself back from the graveyard. Overlay into Ripper, Ripper detach Lupus to add Lantern, and then we get to set the Force Release off the Ripper effect because our opponent activated a card effect from hand. Now here we're going to go for a Lantern and not Jokul, because in this scenario I don't have another level 5 monster in my hand. However, I do have a level 5 monster I just detached to the graveyard. So we can add Lantern off the Ripper here, special summon, and then Lantern effects can add a Case for K9. Case for K9 can grab us a Jokul or an extra Izuna for our opponent's turn, or a Jokul for follow-up plays, either way. But now we can go into the Nosh Knight, detach 2, attach 104, and then go into the CXCs before going into Umbral Horror. No need to pop the Case for K9 with the Umbral Horror here, because we already set the Force Release off the Ripper. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, in this scenario, if you open Izuna alongside your Vanquish Soul starter, and your Vanquish Soul starter gets negated, you can still just go full combo here. So, yeah, even, like, let's say Madlove and Izuna were the only monsters in my hand in this case. Like, normally that's not enough to make plays, but it's still worth normal summoning Madlove, because if your opponent negates it, you can special Izuna and then go into full combo. It's kind of insane how sometimes your opponent hand trapping you is what enables you to make plays with this deck. It's wild. Now, I mentioned at the start of this combo guide that Vanquish Soul was really hand dependent, as in it's not just the 2 cards that you use to combo. Your hand traps as well are really important factors for having the right attributes in your hand. So I wanted to show off a few sample hands. For this one, I'm going to demonstrate how to play through an Imperm. Even though the opposing hand isn't going to actually have an Imperm, I'm going to kind of simulate that. You'll see how in a second here. But for a hand like this, we can begin with Stake Your Soul and go for Razen by revealing the Ash Blossom in our hand. Now we can go for Razen's effect, activating in order to add the Hollie. But let's say our opponent had an Imperm in hand and they used it against the Razen. Well, we would still be able to resolve and add Hollie because we have the heavy Borger in our hand, and Borger is a quick effect. So in this scenario, yeah, imagine they throw out an Imperm against the Razen. Again, we could chain Borger, Borger bounce, Borger summon, and then Razen resolves adding the Hollie. Now we could activate the Borger, revealing the Jokul that's in our hand to draw a card. Here we just drew an extra Stake Your Soul. That's not going to really come up, unfortunately, but you still get the extra draw here, which is nice. Now we can link the Borger into Rock, activate Rock in order to add the Borger back to hand. I mostly did that to have another Dark Monster in my hand that wasn't Jokul, because I was about to use the Jokul here. We can activate Jokul, and then summon the Hollie. Now we can activate Hollie, revealing a fire and a dark to summon Mad Love. Now Mad Love can add the Field Spell. Field Spell can activate here, and at this point we're just going to add a Caesar Valius because the only other Vanquish Soul monster we don't have access to at this point is Jiaolong, but we don't really need Jiaolong in our hand anymore because we already special summoned a Jokul with her effect. So that's kind of like how you know if you need Jiaolong or not. Is Jokul in your hand? If yes, get a Jiaolong in there to summon it, or another level 5. But here, again, we've already summoned Jokul, so we can just grab Valius, no need for, again, the Jiaolong. Actually going to use Valius to bounce the Hollie back to my hand, and then we can use Hollie's effect to special summon herself. Now we can overlay into Ripper. Ripper activates to add the Lantern. We can go Lantern, revive the Jokul effect, because we haven't used that yet for Izuna. Lantern for Case for Canine. Case for Canine can add a follow-up Jokul. Now we can go into Nosh Knight. Nosh Knight gets to go into the Umbral Horror here. And then Umbral Horror is, of course, going to pop the Case for Canine and set the Forced Release. Now here I'm going to have to set Stake Your Soul, just because I have 7 cards in hand. I don't want to discard any, but yeah, then we can go Vanquish Soul Start, and that'll set up the Snow Devil. So look at that board. Look at that end board, and that's through an Imperm too. You can look at the hand up here to see for reference what we started with and what all we were able to end on here. Actually just insane. And this should give a pretty decent example of like not only like why Vanquish Soul Canine is good through its combos, but also through its plays as well. Alright, so here's the next sample hand I wanted to show off. I wanted to show at least a couple of hands that look really bricky, but actually have a ton of plays in them. So like this hand, you see our only monsters are Hollie and Jiaolong, and everything else is a spell card. Would be pretty unideal, but some of these spell cards are a Case for Canine, so that's actually enough to go full combo here. We can go Case for Canine and then add the Jokul. Now, in the previous combo lines, I said that Jokul plus Hollie or Jiaolong doesn't get you Vanquish Soul plays, it only gets you Canine plays. However, because we have Jokul plus Hollie and Jiaolong, it's actually going to be a little bit different here. We can go Hollie effect, reveal to summon, and then now we have a fire and a dark in our hand, so we can summon Mad Love from deck. Mad Love activates to add Start. Start activates here. Or no, sorry, we're going to do Jokul first. Jokul plus Jiaolong. Jokul adds Lantern, overlay into Ripper. Ripper effect, detach Jokul for the Izuna. Now we can go Field Spell, add the Borger. Borger bounce back Hollie in order to summon. Borger reveal the Lantern in order to draw. We can go Lantern effect here, summoning the Jokul from our graveyard. Now we can go Lantern in order to add as well. And then go into Nosh Knight. Because we added the Force Release, there's no need to pop the Case for Canine here. We still have Stake Your Soul, by the way, so we can summon Caesar Valius from deck and then make Rock and then bounce it back to hand. And then, of course, during end phase, we can set up Snow Devil as well. Now, this wasn't like as clean as some of the 2-card lines I showed off. Like, we have the Snow Devil, but we don't really have the attributes in hand to utilize it. But the Snow Devil was like totally incidental anyway, it's fine. Plus, we could still use Mad Love if we wanted to bounce and add a Dark to our hand. We're just missing Fire in this scenario. But regardless, as you can see, with a hand that initially looked really bricky, we still have like pretty much entirely our full turn 1 combo line here. This hand even opened Call By, so if they had like a Maxi or an Ash Blossom or something, we could still push through that very, very easily. Okay, here's another hand that looks really bricky at a glance, right? All we really have are a couple of hand traps, Izuna and Ash Blossom, and if our opponent doesn't hand trap us, we can't actually use Izuna to start plays. For the case of this hand, we're going to assume our opponent doesn't have hand traps, so that way, again, we can just easily make plays with Izuna. We do have Stake Your Soul, though, and this hand really shows the importance of your hand traps, not just as hand traps, but potentially as engine pieces as well. So we can activate Stake Your Soul, revealing Ash Blossom, summoning Razen. Razen gets to activate here to add Mad Love. We have it normal summoned, so we can normal summon Mad Love. Mad Love adds Start. Start effect is going to activate, targeting Mad Love and adding Hollie Sue. Now we can link into Rock. Rock's going to add back the Mad Love. We can special Hollie Sue and then reveal Mad Love plus Ash Blossom in order to summon Jiaolong. Now we can go into Ripper. Ripper effect's going to activate here. Detach in order to add Jokul. We can go Jokul, activate to summon with the Izuna here. Izuna can dump Lupus. Jokul is going to activate to add Lantern. Now we can overlay into the Nosh Knight before going Lantern for Lupus. Lantern effect gets to activate to add a case for K9. We're going to activate a case for K9 to add another Izuna, go into our Psy Blaster, and then go into the Umbral Horror. Now here we opened Force Release, so we're not going to use Umbral Horror to pop a case for K9, but that's, again, our full turn 1 end board right there. Everything all set up. And again, from a hand that looked really bricky, because the only monsters we opened were just hand traps that couldn't be used proactively, right? But because we had the Stake Your Soul, again, that led to full line by revealing Ash Blossom. That's why I said before, it's so important to not just look at these 2-card combo lines that I show you, but you have to look at every single monster card in your hand when making plays with this deck. Okay, for our last hand, here's a hand that looks really, really bricky, right? It literally just doesn't have like any of our main starters like Mad Love or Razen or Jokul in it. Just Lantern and a Hollie Sue with like not even a fire monster in hand. But this is actually still not full combo, but still something of a setup here. It's really easy to forget, but remember that cards like Lantern and Jokul can still normal summon themselves even if you don't have another level 5 monster to use them in the hand or graveyard respectively, right? As long as your opponent has 2 or more cards in hand, you can still normal summon. So what we're going to do here is we're going to normal summon the Lantern, activate to add a case for K9. Case for K9 is going to add Jokul. Now we can go Jokul to summon and Hollie Sue. Jokul effect is going to add Izuna. Now we can overlay into Ripper. Ripper detach in order to add another Jokul, and we'll just set the Force Release that was already in our hand before passing. If I didn't have Force Release in hand, I would have searched it with the Ripper instead of a follow-up Jokul. But yeah, I mean, that doesn't look like a lot, but keep in mind here that we have Ripper Negate, Force Release Destroy into Werewolf Hand Rip. We have the Izuna, which can still summon back the Lupus once that's detached, or rather Lupus will summon itself back once our opponent activates a card or effect in hand. We could go into the rank 5 Valiant, turn something face down, on top of the Ghost Spell that's in our hand as well as a hand trap. So yeah, even hands like that look totally dead, no plays at all, just remember to always look for opportunities to normal summon your K9 monsters and see if that'll get you anything, right? Even Lantern, which here couldn't summon anything back from the graveyard, would still be able to be proactively used in this scenario. Alright, that is going to do it for my overview for K9 Vanquish Soul. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Like I said, I've been having a ton of fun playtesting this deck, and I'm really eager for it to come into Master Duel and just see how powerful it's going to end up being. Like I said, though, that's going to do it, and thank you as always to our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. Patreon subscribers get that exclusive content over on patreon.com/hexlex multiple times a week. At least 3 times a week I upload over there, and none of those videos are the same as what gets uploaded to YouTube. And remember, YouTube members get to see uploads here on YouTube early, as well as some exclusive content, and both are going to get their names featured right about now during our outro. Let's move on to the end credits so we can thank those supporters. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.